Sean here from HZad Education. Now, CELPIP reading is one of the hardest modules of the exam. A lot of people fail here. A lot of people struggle. If you know these 10 most important tips for reading for all 4 parts, you will not struggle. As soon as you implement them, you will see your reading marks are going to shoot up very quickly. So I'm going to not go over general tips. I'm going to go part by part with an actual reading passage in front of you and cover the most important things you should know if this is your first attempt or if you have failed a few times, maybe because of reading, and here's what you can do to improve it. Now, this part or this passage can be found on our blog. Check out HZad Education's blog. The link is in the description. It'll take you to many resources on CELPIP, including reading tests, and more are coming soon. So this is the first one, the first reading test uploaded, and you can see there's part 1. All right, so strategy number 1 is, of course, you have this passage and you have questions. The first strategy is you read the questions only, don't skim through. Look, you only have 10 minutes. You don't have much time to skim through, and this is not IELTS where skimming through helps at all. Okay, here you would look at the question number 1, for example, what is Jeff and Martin's relationship? Now this one, you don't have to look at any specific passage. You would see that who is being written to. The person Martin is the one being addressed, written by Jeff. Now you would look at the tone overall, and here you would see, please regard this as a letter of apology for recent problems that I caused by moving your belongings. See, this first part gives you a little idea of the relationship, and similarly, the last part will as well, since this is where the starting and ending greetings are done. So those 2 parts alone will help you get the answer for this. You don't need to look at the rest of it. Then you go to question number 2. It's talking about Jeff organizing stuff. Now here, you're going to look at either this or a place here wherever organization by Jeff is mentioned. Just read that and come back and answer the questions. This way, you're not reading the whole thing, and then when you come to the questions, you mostly forget everything you have read. You are looking at specific things that you need to be mentioned in the question, catching those, and then coming back and answering based on what you have read. This method is also effective because, remember, 3 choices are incorrect. 1 is correct. So when you look at the question, not the options, you're looking at the question, going up, understanding it, and coming down, then looking at the options. This helps you remember the correct answer, and you don't let the options confuse you because you have organically found the answer. Strategy number 2 is looking at the response letter. This is where the person is now responding, and based on their letter, you have questions included inside the response letter, and you have to answer those questions. So the strategy here is don't go up in the passage and read it in order to answer these questions. Why? Because when you were answering questions 1 to 6, you already read the whole passage, right? You went through it, you know what it's all about. Now, questions 7 to 10 are going to be based on your understanding, your assumption of what the person responding is going to say. It's not going to be even found in the passage because remember, this is a new text. It's a response letter by the person who received the first letter. So it is going to be based on the assumption of how that other person is likely to respond. So you would go here and check the tone, and based on that answer, and also from your previous knowledge of what you have read, this response letter is basically expectation of what a response to that first letter is likely going to be. Also, again, we're doing this because you have only 10 minutes. If you keep going up and down from questions 7 to 11 in the response letter, you're going to waste time. And that is strategy number 3, timing. You want to spend more time in the first 6 questions. You got 10 minutes, spend 7 to 8 minutes in the first 6 questions. This is where you will be answering multiple choice, going up and reading for the very first time, so you do need more time here. But when you're here, questions 7 to 11, finish this in 2 to 3 minutes. That is the best way to utilize your time, and these questions do not need a lot of time. Major mistake is students say, I'm going to give this 50% of my time and this 50% of my time, and you screw up everything. It needs to be a different time division. So again, 7 to 8 minutes to the first multiple choice questions and 2 to 3 minutes only to the response letter questions because they are fast. and you don't need to get up and check every time. Check out also our CELPIP 15-hour course. It includes the most upgraded and latest mock tests for reading, and I think a 3.5-hour lecture on reading alone. If you're struggling with that, that course is going to solve all your problems. Link is in the description as well. Now, when we go to part 2, there's a picture. Here, your picture is going to be short. This has a lot of words, but you don't need to read the letter. You need to read what you call it here, the guides or the hints around it, or the descriptions, because this is basically teaching students, or in this case, maybe it's a English grammar or English letter class where the students are being taught how to write a letter. So you just need to read these parts, right? In some pictures, you have columns that you have to read. In some pictures, it's a brochure you have to read. This is not that much text to read. Here, you can finish this in 2 minutes, and that's what you should do. Read or look at this whole picture in 2 minutes, then go to the questions. In this case, we do reverse. We don't go to the questions first, we look at the picture first. All right, that's your strategy number 4. Strategy number 5 is when you're answering these questions, for example, question number 1, you got to read the words around the question. For example, it says, the first thing you will notice from my email today is that the letter in question is. Now, this is your hint. The letter in question is, and now I have to see the hints here. It's an informal letter, it's a friendly letter, or something that is mentioned here. That is what I'm going to use to answer question number 1. When I look at question number 2, you can see it's right here. So I'm going to look at the words here and here to understand what the probable answer is going to be. So look at the words around the blank here in part 2. Now, when we go to questions 6 to 8, which are a follow-up of this letter, you want to look at, for example, 6, 7, and 8, you want to look at words or sentences that were not initially used to help you answer questions 1 to 5. What I mean by this is, look at this paragraph. This doesn't have any questions, right? It's a very extra paragraph. And look at this sentence there, or the start. There is no mention of any question here. These things that were avoided earlier will help you most likely to answer questions 6 to 8. So the information that is in 6 to 8 is usually included in words or phrases that are not directly in the question's way. Okay, but of course, some words or some questions can come from this highlighted part, which are the questions. However, mostly 6 to 8 questions can be found from words or phrases or paragraphs that were not initially used in questions 1 to 5. Strategy number 7 is heading to part 3, and here you have to match paragraphs. You got to read all the questions first. This is about matching. So you wouldn't know if one is in C or D or A. Similarly, for all 9 questions, you don't know where they are. Read all of them. Look at the keywords. Now what's going to happen is when you go to paragraph A, read it, and then you try to come back, you will be able to match it much faster, because when you're reading it, you would look at certain keywords and you would be like, wait, this was mentioned in this question, and this was mentioned in this question, and you will be able to find the answer much quicker because of your sharper memory. It'll save you a lot of time. Okay, next strategy, strategy number 8 is do not look for E. E is not given. So some people try to look for the sentences that are not given. Don't do that. Just answer the phrases, or the paragraphs that are mentioned. Whatever is left at the end is going to be E. So example, you cannot find an answer for 4 or 9. That is E. Simple. You found answers for everything else. Whatever is left is E. Okay, let's go to strategy number 9 for reading part 4. This strategy is simply understanding that this part is going to be a debate. That's it. You got to understand that there's always 2 or more people, here it's 2, who are arguing about something. And this, you can get this idea from the very start. This guy, he is different from his generation because he dislikes music. So obviously the opposite is going to be someone who likes music. And that's what this says. It's completely opposite argument. He misses how music rejuvenated him and so on. So this is a debate. And why this is important for you to know is because the questions are going to mention the context. What do they disagree on? What is this person opposed to compared to that person? As long as you understand these are debate questions and this whole passage is based on that, you will be able to answer the questions correctly. The final thing is, the last strategy, guys, is treat this passage as part one, because here you have a very similar thing. You have the first 5 questions, which are multiple choice questions. Then you have not a response letter, but a comment letter. This is a person who reviewed this article and they are making comments on that. So this can be, these comment questions 6 to 10 can be ascertained if you already know the passage. You don't have to go up and down, just like in part 1 response letter. You don't have to go up and down to answer questions 6 to 10. This is going to be someone who reviewed the first article. What are they likely to say? And because it is based on assumption, you won't really find answers by going up. So don't go up and waste time. And again, give it 20 to 30% of the time, while giving questions 1 to 5 the majority of the time. So remember these tips and tricks. And once again, you can access this test on our blog. Link is in the description. If you want the best mock tests, the best strategies, do check out our course as well. And please like, share, and subscribe. We really appreciate your support.